Hey, what's up, everybody? We're in week number 2 this month, and I just want to tell you a little something about myself. I always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I don't know if you are a big WWE fan or a big pro wrestling fan, but that was my thing back in middle school, high school. I loved wrestling. I mean, I had my favorite stars, and I would tune in every single match that I possibly could, to the point that I decided that it would be a good idea to be my own professional wrestler. Now, here's the problem with my desire to be a pro wrestler. I decided to do a match with my friends, but there was no safety mat, there was no arena, there was no crowd. It was just me, it was just him, and there was concrete. So you could probably imagine how things went. We literally tried to do our own professional wrestling match on concrete, and all I remember is that he tried some sumo wrestling move. He had me upside down, and he just slammed me on the concrete. And it was at that moment that I realized I'm not a professional wrestler. It was at that moment that I realized I probably don't want to do this ever again. That was a very, very weird feeling. But maybe we've all felt that way before, where we've wanted to step into the professional realm, where we wanted ourselves to be either an athlete or businessman, or to make professional decisions. Now, when it comes to being a professional, a lot of, whether it's an athlete or whether it's any space, a lot of being a professional is about knowing right from wrong. And when you think about life, a lot of life is about knowing the difference between right and wrong. Now, when we think about right and wrong, some choices are totally obvious, and you know that there are some things that are just right and some things that are just absolutely wrong. For instance, let's just say murder. That's definitely wrong. It's obvious, right? Or robbing a bank. That's obviously wrong too. But there are some other things and areas and decisions that we make that it's hard to differentiate whether it's right or wrong, like lying. Now, I'm going to just tell you right out front, lying is wrong. You shouldn't do it. But if you're like me, there are moments where you really do try to justify it, don't you? Like, we try to make up ways to justify the lies that we tell. Like if we just tell a half lie, or if we leave out like the important details. So technically we didn't lie, but we didn't tell the whole truth. And you know what I mean? Like it kind of gets a little fuzzy. It kind of gets a little gray, and you just like, okay, what's really right or really wrong when it comes to telling the truth? Or maybe it's with your friends. And all of us have that one friend. They just don't make the best decisions. Let's just be honest. But we know deep down, because they're our friend, that they're truly, genuinely not a bad person. But again, it comes between what's right and what's wrong. Because are we really supposed to dump a friend? And as Christians, we're supposed to be friends with everybody and show love to everybody. So then things get a little gray, and it's like, I don't know what's right and wrong when it comes to my friendships. Or maybe when it comes to the things that you post on social media. And, when it comes to Snapchat or Instagram or whatever your favorite social media platform is, I mean, the whole purpose of posting is to get the most likes that you possibly can, right? That's part of it. And so there are some times where we get a little risque in what we post just to boost up our views or our likes or whatever the case might be. And you know that there are things that you maybe desire to post, or maybe things that you see other people posting that gets the most likes, and you're like, I just don't know if it's right or wrong for me to actually post this thing. And so the question that you're probably thinking in your mind, and the question that we probably all should be thinking when we look at a situation like this, is how do you make decisions when the answer isn't obvious? Now it's really easy when the answer is obvious and and things are black and white and things are right or wrong. It's just easier to just pick it out from the crowd and say, you know what, that's right, that's wrong. But what do you do when the answer isn't as obvious? Now, one of the good news is that Today we're going to be summarizing from the book of Proverbs. And I think there's a word that kind of helps put all of our questions into perspective, and that word is wisdom. I think with wisdom, we're able to decide and differentiate what's truly right and what's truly wrong. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that we can explain or define what wisdom is, but here's my definition of wisdom. It's a simple way that I like to think of it is wisdom helps us to avoid foolish decisions. Like wisdom literally helps us to avoid foolish decisions. Now, what's cool about the Bible is that the book of Proverbs is written by Solomon, and his entire intent of writing the Proverbs is really a book of wisdom. His intent was to create a book of wisdom for generations and generations to come, like you and I, so that we would have a point of reference of how to make our decisions. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at a collection of what Solomon wrote in this book of wisdom. And we're going to be looking at a couple of different verses. One of the verses I want to look at is something that's like this, right? Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. I mean, that's some really good wisdom right there. I don't know about you, but that's some really tight wisdom right there. And really, if we put it all together, what Solomon is saying is trust God. It's simply to trust God. But then he goes a little further and said, not only can we trust God, but we can trust God's understanding. And here's the thing. There are things that we understand, and there are things that God understands. And in this very book of wisdom, in this very verse, he's instructing us. I mean, I know that you have some understanding, but don't rely only on your own understanding. Sometimes we need a little bit more, especially when it comes to our decisions, than just what we feel in the moment. Sometimes we need a little bit more than just our gut instinct. And that's where God comes into play. We don't have to rely on our own understanding, but we can trust God. That's what he's saying. So let's go a little bit deeper into some of the other things that he said. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. And then he says, in all your ways, submit to him. Now, before I deep dive into what I believe that means and what it actually means in Scripture, here's the thing. We only know what we know. I mean, the truth of the matter, if you're in middle school or if you're in high school, the truth is that there's only so much that we know at this stage in our lives. I mean, even me as a full adult, that's a husband and a wife, not a wife. Oh, Lord, I messed up.